Dun, dun, dun. Episode 2. All right, so you made it through episode 1, which is great. Now we're going into basically what we need to discuss in episode 2 is it all falls on him. All right, so basically what files these guys want you to send us. If you want to get the perfect print, this is the time and this is the area where it matters most.
Right. A lot of this has to do with us not having to do it on our end and having to charge you. So if you have an artist or you're doing it yourself, when you send us what we call finished artwork, these are the kind of files we would consider finished artwork that we don't have to do a lot of stuff to. We get files set up for how we produce this stuff in-house that we don't charge you guys for. We're just talking about the art that initially comes to us. If there's anything we have to do in addition to that, then that's when the charging comes into effect. So that's part of what we'll be talking about.
And then we're going to cover resolutions versus JPEGs and high-res file, low-res files, what that means to a lot of you guys. Like me, I'm having still yet to learn a lot of that myself.
It's going to be very basic. I'm not going to get into depth. Some of you guys may know all about this. Just bear with us because there's a lot of people that don't understand this part.
And then jumping right into Pantone colors versus actual printed colors versus what you see on your screen. Those don't always add all up, so we're going to definitely cover that.
And a big one.
And then the number one is make sure you have the correct vehicle type. There's a lot of guys where they only get partial info and then wonder why things are not fitting right or why all of a sudden a price jumped. Maybe that van was a lot bigger than what you thought it was. So there's a lot that we're going to cover on that and how to get that info.
Okay, well, let's start with number one then. As far as the art department here at Eagle, what we like to get from you guys, one is the highest res image that we can get from you. We typically, anything at 100% size, okay, if it's at least 100 resolution, created at 100 resolution, we'll get into that here in a minute in the high res, low res deal. Anything that's that high that gets sent to us is what we're looking for. If you send us something and it's real low res, then we have a problem. We can't use it because the time we blow it up to the size it needs to be, it's not good enough. If you have art that's getting digitally printed that's contour cut, so it's an image that say has a name in it and it gets cut around the name so that part of the vehicle shows through or whatever it may be. Maybe you have an installer that's just starting to learn. He wants the whole background put on and then he wants the names put on top because he's not as confident yet about installing the kit. Mm-hmm. When we get those kind of things, we prefer vector files, and we'll get into that in a minute too. Those vector files allows us to create a cut file, okay? If we get that, we can create a cut file pretty quick. We're not going to charge you. But if it's something we have to create off of a JPEG or a PSD file, Photoshop file, or something that doesn't have vector lines in it that we can create a file from, that's going to accrue a lot of art time. So we'll get into that in a minute too.
Well, and going from the sell side on this, a lot of the times we'll have the guys that don't know this information, so they're just sending just picture after picture, and it might just be a picture that's this big and they want it this big, which we're going to discuss. But it's one of those where getting to know these basics is going to save you that time of constantly emailing back and forth. All right, how about this one? Okay, how about this one? Now you can go to that customer and say, do you have these files? If not, the time is going to start and our time is going to start adding in.
That brings us right into resolution, and that's what we're going to kind of go over here.
All right, so now we're going to talk resolutions. Resolutions,
good,
high
bad.
resolution, bad. This is what a lot of guys send in to us. As far as you got your guys that know what they're sending in, and then you got your guys that are like, I really have no clue. This is what they sent me. Here, you look at it.
So basically what I got set up here on the first part of this is something typical, and somebody doesn't know what they've got and they send it to us. What we'll do is we'll open it up in Photoshop and we'll see what the size is and the resolution. And as you can see here, the width in height is in inches. It's 3 by almost 2 inches at 200 reps. Well, typically we don't print stuff that size. They'll probably want this at a much bigger size. So if I were to resize this thing, say 42 inches, you can see that the resolution is like at 14. So if I click that, okay, and I zoom in here, it doesn't look very good.
And this is what it would actually look like at
This
actual
is how this
size.
thing would look when it's printed. And I know our customers and our customers' customers would not like that. So what we usually have to do is we'll have to call the customer, or have you call the customer, Wayne, or whoever it is dealing with you guys, and say that file is much too small. We need this file the size that you want it printed at 100 revs. Not blown up to 100 revs like we just did, because that doesn't do us any good, right? So that's kind of what we're talking about there. A good image would be something like this. This one's the size we want, 40 some inches. The image size says it's 100 res, right? So we zoom in, it looks pretty
Looks
darn good.
Really nice.
So
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the most important thing for you guys to realize. And I struggled with this myself as far as figuring out, okay, well, what does that mean?
Right.
So it's really nice to see on screen that we can say, all right,
Right.
if you have got Photoshop, or still yet, if you have questions, I mean, send it to us. We will take a look at it just like he's doing right here.
Another thing
We're just
I
trying to
wanna-
help save some of that email
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
Going back and forth.
Another thing I want to mention, which is important, is a lot of you our customers don't have the ability to pull something up in Photoshop and check it out. Okay, so they're relying on us. That one good indicator that you have something that's large or a good enough res size, not always, it's just an indicator, is the image size itself. This image, this good one, is at almost 30 megs. Okay, if I went back to this guy, and we went back to where it was, we opened it, I'd say image size. This is 645K. That's pretty small. When the file size, image size, which most of us can see, you just have to click on the image, right click on it, it'll tell you the image size. When it's really small like that, chances are it's gonna be really itty bitty or a really low res. So something to kind of, now if you still want us to check it out, we'll be fine to check it
Yeah,
out. But
yeah.
this is just things that can help you, identify when you have something that's gonna work or not gonna work.
And once again, it just goes right back into that saving you guys that time and that pain. So as far as it goes, I mean, that's a basic overview of resolution and JPEG versus high-res files.
Yeah, and that's
I mean,
what these episodes are all about, just basic knowledge. If you guys have more questions about it or want to know more, feel free to call us. We can go into more depth on it, everybody's different, in a different scenario, so everybody's at a different level, what they know, what they don't, so we'll be more than happy to answer questions.
So with this already up on screen, then we can start tagging right into Pantones.
Absolutely.
So we are now going to move on into Pantones. What the color of an actual Pantone color looks like versus an actual printed color versus what you see on your screen. So, I mean, when you're looking at something on your screen and your customer says, well, I really like that shade of red. That's the red I want. Well, you need to let them know that that is not the exact red that they're going to get.
Right.
Each computer screen is different. I mean, you can look at it on your cell phone, you can look at it in multiple areas, and it's always going to look different. So this red right here, you go, man, I'm gonna get the color chart, I'm gonna look at that, and I'm gonna say, I want that red. Well, it's not gonna happen. And that's another thing. I brought up our color chart. If you have our color chart and you're talking digital printing, do not base that color, do not have that customer look at that color and go, this is exactly what you're gonna get. Okay, it's something that we cannot dial in with digital printing. You cannot get that nice shine, that nice gloss of an actual
Well,
manufactured material versus a digital print.
those vinyls use pigments, the same kind of inks and stuff that they use in offset printing, and those things you can create any color in the rainbow with that kind of stuff. But when you're talking digital printing, most digital printers use a base of CMYK. That's cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. There's other digital printers that have additional colors like light cyan, light magenta. You'll recognize these in your small desktop printers. Same thing with big printers, you know. And so when you're limited to those colors, your color gamut is narrowed. So if you're looking for a color, and say your customer has a logo, he says, well, my logo has a Pantone of 151C, okay? And we go by, which is the most commonly used, there's other Pantone books out there, but the most commonly used are the coded Pantone colors. They always have a C at the end of them. So your customer says, my logo has a Pantone of 151C. Well, what we'll get closest to is this CMY breakdown that's right to the right of
Put
it.
that up super close there.
So here's the actual Pantone color. This is what the customer says his logo has in it. What we'll try to hit is more of this side. Okay? This is telling me this is the breakdown of this is on these CMYK colors. Now every printer has a RIP software and everything that works with it, but we print out all the Pantones and we try to dial in as close as we can. We'll try to hit this, but the reality is going to be more of this. So that's something to keep in mind. What TJ was saying earlier about our color chart, you can have a color chart open and say you like any of these colors, and he picks a red or a blue, but beware, it might be a lot harder for us to get close to those colors than something else that say it's in a Pantone color chart.
Yeah, and I think that's, if you're going to seriously get into digital printing, we highly suggest you get yourself a Pantone.
Yeah,
color
they're not
chart.
cheap, but they are very beneficial. I mean, I think a Pantone, I haven't looked at the price lately, but they're anywhere from, I don't know, $50 to $100
But
color chart.
once again, it's a time saver.
Yeah.
We are all about just trying to save that time. It's so much wasted time going back and forth.
But if you don't want to do this, that's fine. We're just kind of giving you the information so you know, and you're not wondering, well, why is this not coming out right? Your artist that's working on it knows, you know, and then your customers know. So there's no surprises. It cuts down on that time and those questions of why doesn't it look exactly like this?
Exactly. All right, so that's going to bring us next to our last point in this episode 2, is making sure you have the correct vehicle type when you are giving us the info. I'll tell you, trucks, vans, those are the most, I would say, used in the fleet, to where you really have to know what you're dealing with. I mean, if you have a van and you're going to go out and take a picture of it, don't just get the one side that has no doors on it, or the one side that doesn't have windows on it. If you're going to take pictures, we need full detailed shots of each angle of that vehicle. Especially with vans, they could have sliding doors, they could have a double opening door, they could have no windows, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So that's where we need all of that information, the year, the make, the model, everything.
If we're creating the art, that's the stuff that we need to know.
So more info you give us, the quicker it is for them to get you art.
Let's go into that here too. Here's what we're talking about as far as different types of specific types of vehicles. You always have to know the year, the make, and the model. But there's one thing that helps us know is if you can get a picture of the vehicle and just of all sides, like I said, it helps us identify the type that it is, because there's always little different variations of these models. And this is a good example of, this is our Eagle van, okay? And when I plug in the year, the make, and the model into templates that we use to use for doing art on, it comes, this isn't all of it. I came up with 8 different styles to this van. And you can see things that make a difference. And the reason they make a difference, like these door swings here versus a sliding door, that's the same side, same van, it's just a different type of door.
Which
okay?
changes everything in the art.
Windows on some, not windows on others. That tells us, okay, if it's a full wrap and he wants something covering those, that's gonna have to be perf film, not regular film. That all ties into how we gang it up and that the quote that you get.
And then on the sliding door, if you have verbiage going right through where that railing
That's
goes,
another biggie.
it's done.
So if you
cannot change
tell me
it.
something and I'm just gonna pick one of these and say I pick this one and it's actually a sliding door and I start putting type right here, right where this guy is, that's gonna be a problem,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's important that you get as much information about the vehicle as you can. You know, obviously, we pick vans, which has a lot of variations to it because we want to illustrate what we're talking about.
Exactly. And that's just getting the correct information from your customer.
Yep.
So we will move on, and we're going to start episode 3 here coming up in a few. And